Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. So today I did some things. I didn't do a lot of things, but I did some things and some important things. So we had a little misfire on the truck. Wife has been driving we have a 05 Escalade. She's been driving that thing and she said it was shaking. So hooked up the HP tuner scanner, read the codes, and there was a misfire code, injector circuit code, and a cylinder 2 misfire, like a PO 300 for the random misfire, and then a couple cylinder 2 misfire codes. So looked into that a little bit. It said injector circuit, so I tested the injector, and all I did really was pull one of the little clips off from my flow test rig that I was using before and hooked that thing up and read the impedance on it. It was like 75 ohms first time I read it. So I tried to hook it up to a battery, pulled it out, and it didn't do anything. I'll hook it up to the battery in the Z here quick. And here it's not clicking, not doing anything. So that's interesting. I hook it up to use a multimeter to test it, and when I first checked it, it was at 75 ohms. And now it's reading 0.4. So it did make that switch when I tried to hook it up to power the first time. It was at 75 and now it's like 0.3, so almost a dead short. So yeah, bad injector. So I just thought that one was kind of strange. Usually you don't really see just a random injector go bad, but it was kind of funny because we found it and diagnosed it, pulled a good injector off the shelf, and had it back in the truck in like 20 minutes. So it didn't cost anything, and back on the road. Got a little update on the car. Let's check this thing out. So been working on this a lot of today, and obviously it's not in there, it's held in with zip ties. I mean, the alternator's just hanging on zip ties right now. Just got it hanging. So yep, it's gonna look crooked, it's gonna look bad. This is just a zip tie. So this is the idea that I'm going for here with the accessory drive. So I wanna run serpentine setup like everything else off the front ribs like normal, and then the air conditioning off of the rear section. So I still have room down here for the AC pump or AC compressor or whatever you want to call it. Kind of followed somewhat of the original design of having the power steering pump and alternator here. Usually they were both together on the bottom section of the engine, but this is pretty close to what I would say what the LOJ kit looks like. If you look at the LOJ accessory kit, it has the alternator on the bottom, comes up to a pulley, and then power steering pump is up over here. But that kit's actually using the CTSV water pump that has the outlet on the top over on this side. So it has a pulley here, belt comes up, power steering pump, and then around a second pulley, and then over the top. So I think the belt actually comes up around a pulley right here and then back around, and you still get like a 30% wrap on the water pump with no pulley over here. So I think that's what that one looks like. But this is what I'm going to go with over here. This is going to have to be a little bit lower. What I did here was welded a nut to the back of the water pump bolt. I thought maybe that would actually be sufficient and I'd be able to put it right here, but it's probably not going to work. So I'm going to have to lower it. I'm going to put it down a little bit lower just because it's really tight right here. And I want to get the power steering pump down farther and then suck tighter into the engine. One of the reasons being it's the belt up here. I don't want it to be flopping around too much. So I want to be able to tighten it, get this thing really tight, because this is on the non-driven side also. So this might flop around a little bit if it's not tight enough. So I originally had this tensioner flipped over and the tension pulley was way over here just because of whatever, how I bolted it to the head. So I may not use this bracket. I'll probably have to modify this bracket. But this is the general idea. I want to have the tensioner pulley here, and this is what the rest of it will look like. So through this whole process, I was thinking a little bit. So I was looking at different water pumps and different accessory drive designs, and this water pump, LS1 water pump, whatever you want to call it, has this bigger pulley on it. But if you look at like the LS3 or LS6 water pump pulleys, they're really short. So this little snout here is actually sucked in about another inch, or like a lot farther than this one is. So my concern right now that I have with the engine placement and everything being farther forward than normal is the water pump. I'm pretty sure the pulley will clear the radiator and the fans, but I'm pretty sure that this is gonna hit. So what I might do is verify that. If it hits, get that different water pump. So that will bring the front of the water pump, this section, like way back to here. It actually sits farther back than the water outlet. It's like way back by this rib here. So that'll gain me a lot of room if I need to do that. That's another option. But yeah, then with that pump, I might be able to actually use factory radiator, factory location, not modify anything else, keep power steering, alternator, and air conditioning all set up just how it was supposed to be. So that might be pretty cool. So because the engine is farther forward than normal, like if you were buying the normal kits, I did have to loosen the power steering line here. So this line is actually in the pump. Normally it's down lower, but I have it raised up a little bit. So I did have to loosen the bracket from those little bolt holes down there. You can see the power steering lines right down there. I did have to loosen this and then kind of bend those power steering lines forward a little bit to gain a few more inches to pull this thing forward. But now it's forward far enough that I actually have it loose and I can mount it where I need it. Just messing around with this bracket, and this bracket is the tensioner that would typically bolt onto the water pump right here using these two mounting locations. So I flipped that thing over, so instead of pulling the tension this way, it's now pulling the tension this way, and it was just flipped right over. And it bolts in. I did check it on this head and a different head. It does fit the bolt pattern of this section of the head over here, so that works out pretty well as of now. I mean, it might change, but it looks like this tensioner might work, and then I'll have tension for everything else, and it's not too far out or anything crazy, so hopefully it'll be low enough when I finally mount that. But the rest of the mounting points don't look too terrible. So there's a bolt hole on the block down there and up here, so I may be able to just do L brackets and then two studs here for the alternator, and I'll be able to space that out however I need it. Not exactly how I'm gonna do the power steering pump or the idler, but I'm sure it'll just be some type of flat stock and a nut welded to something. I mean, that's as simple as it's gonna get. So it looks like this section on the power steering pump, there is a through bolt. If I rotate the pulley a little bit, there's a hole. So I might actually do like a piece of flat stock, and I was eyeballing it before. If I just do flat, like a straight piece, and then drill a hole in the middle, I'll have a spot I can bolt this hole to, and then I might use this bracket right here and bolt it into something different. So I mean, it doesn't seem like it'll be terribly complicated to get this thing in there. I just got to change the crank pulley, stop talking about it, and just actually do it and make all the stuff. So it shouldn't be too long, but that's the idea. So I think the only other thing I want to add is this is the tensioner off of a truck water pump tensioner. This is the idler off of the power steering and alternator bracket from a truck. This is the truck bracket. This is the idler that was right there. So that's cheap and easy to find. I already had that one. Truck alternator, and this is the 350Z power steering pump, and then I'll use the 350Z AC. And I want to put it here because it's gonna, all the lines are gonna just bolt right into it, and I shouldn't have to mess with much for that. If I even decide to keep that. I might not, so we can go full race car weight reduction, bro, blah, 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 over winter. But yeah, just want to show you guys where I got all that stuff or where it's all coming from. So I wanted to reuse the factory power steering pump because it has all the lines already made and everything already pretty simple, just needed a way to spin it. So I'm gonna get started on this, hopefully it all works.